Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you're here and I'm so glad to be making this video today. I've been super excited to make this video ever since I watched this hashtag unfold on TaroTube, and I wanted to do things a little bit differently. So I am going to actually be deciding what decks I want to pair with current reads. So I have books that I'm currently reading that I am not complete with yet. And I want to go through a few decks and decide what deck or decks, one or more. That's another way I'm going to do it differently. It's so hard to pick one deck, which we'll see with my first one. And it'll be also to use those decks while I'm reading the book for whatever use or practice makes sense for that deck, which we'll see. I'll only be going through 3 books since we're going to be going through a decision-making process. I thought this would be really fun to do on camera, especially as they're current reads and not books that I've finished. Maybe I'll do another one on books that I've finished if that's one that you want to see. But this is how I wanted to do it because I'm really excited about the books that I'm reading and I want to pair them. So let's start with the first book so you can get a better sense of how I'm going to be doing things. The first book is Women Who Run with the Wolves. Sorry, my lights are going to catch a little bit, but this is the small version, like the mass market paperback that I got, but then I realized, it started to fall apart on me. But so I ended up getting the larger copy. But yeah, this book is pretty much, it's the first book that I did pairing book like a tarot deck with a book. What I did was I had this deck here, the Tarot of the Divine, which I'll show you in just a minute, but I got that deck and started sort of reading with it to explore the concepts and stories for myself, especially within my own experiences and applications, really using the deck to like expand on what I was reading. And so that's how I want to use this deck and maybe a couple of other ones moving forward. And so if you haven't heard of this book, I don't know how, because I feel like I was the last person to hear about this book. But it's pretty much what it says. It's myths and stories of the wild woman archetype. It's a really thick, like, I don't know how these books seem to be the same size when one is just so much larger than the other one. Actually, yeah, I know why. The font is extremely small. But anyway, it's a deeply spiritual book, and it goes through different stories and sort of breaking them down into, I think this is chapter 2 here, talks about Bluebeard. I don't know if you've heard of that story. Quite a gory one. Quite an intense and scary story. I think in the first one we have La Loba, yeah, so the wolf woman. I'm telling you, even the introduction, singing over the bones, is groundbreaking, life-changing. I mean, let's just read the first page. It says, wildlife and the wild woman are both endangered species. Over time, we have seen the feminine instinctive nature looted, driven back, and overbuilt. For long periods, it has been mismanaged like the wildlife in the wildlands. For several thousand years, as soon and as often as we turn our backs, it is relegated to the poorest land in the psyche. The spiritual lands of wild women have, throughout history, been plundered or burnt, dens bulldozed, and natural cycles forced into unnatural rhythms to please others. It is not by accident that the pristine wilderness of our planet disappears as the understanding of our own inner wild natures fades. It is not so difficult to comprehend why old forests and old women are viewed as not very important resources. It is not such a mystery. It is not so coincidental that wolves and coyotes, bears, and wildish women have similar reputations. They all share related instinctual archetypes, and as such, both are erroneously reputed to be ingracious, holy, and innately dangerous and ravenous. So, yeah, I remember one of the most, where it actually really, like, kind of like, let me get my words right, where it became clear to me that this book was going to change my life, was where it says, I have not forgotten the song of those dark years, Hambre del alma, the song of the starved soul. But neither have I forgotten the joyous canto hondo, the deep song, the words of which come back to us when we do the work of soulful reclamation. This book has redefined the word Bible for me as someone who shudders at that word. But it's about myth, it's about fairy tales, it's about the feminine, about reclamation, about humanity, and wildness, instinct, intuition. It's so incredible. Like, I love this book with all my heart. It's how I see the world. It's who I want to be when I grow up. It feels like so much of who I am and who I always was. And so this deck is a book of fairy tales, of deities, of folklore, and from around the world. And so it feels like the perfect deck. And it was the first one that I used to begin. I may have even gotten it to work with this book, to explore the concepts in the book, to explore the stories in my own life, to explore my own narratives and how I can take part in these reclamations, how I can expand my understanding. And I started reading this book in community, and I continue to read it in community with my QPP and with the book group that I read with. And so it's inherently tied to community, sisterhood, if you will. It's spiritual, it's deeply human, it's cultural, and it feels like rebuilding the world around us to what it should be, where the feminine is prized as it should be, where it's prioritized. I don't know, it's hard to put all of my feelings in words. So this is one deck. I mean, it feels like the quintessential deck. However, I then went and got this. Whoa, that's really bright. The Story Medicine Tarot. Wow, my light is really trying to play games with me today. This is Baba Yaga's soup. It says here, is it this one? Oh yes, if you've heard of the Story Medicine, this is the 3rd edition. It says, I'm on a mission to create the largest mix and match tarot. I'm on a mission to create the largest mix and match tarot in the world, consisting of 312 cards and 4 decks total, all with the same fire mosaic back. Baba Yaga's Soup is the 3rd edition of the Story Medicine Tarot, dedicated to West and life. I call it The Stones, as this deck has the power to track, mark, and transform a specific moment in time and story. And I love, and I'll read the back too, it says, Baba Yaga meets us at the thresholds of the 5 women's blood mysteries. She enchants us deep into the void of her underwater forest to encounter both our fear and that which we are becoming. In the name of her insatiable hunger and the bottomless pit of her kelp bulb belly, she will devour you, only to spit you back out into the world, never to be the same again. Scared? You should be. It says the 3rd edition of the Story Medicine Tarot Creation Journey. Baba Yaga's Soup includes apparitions of the Sea Witch on the major cards, storytelling on the minor cards, riddles on the face cards, along with instructions and inspiration for working with the deck. Sorry about that. Warning. Discretion is advised. This deck will radically alter and transform your life. Use at your own risk. Agreed, and I love what it says here. Why are you here? What do you want? Toss it in, stir it in the pot. Change is coming, ready or not. Ooh, I get giddy. Anyway, I highly recommend this deck. You are meant to read. I'm gonna have to fix my lights. Let me fix my lights. Okay, sorry. I had a light on that I usually don't have on. But yeah, so the cups correspond to, I don't know why I started at cups, but the cups correspond to birth, the pentacles correspond to life, the swords correspond to death, and the wands correspond to rebirth. So we have your death, your birth, giving birth, menopause. We have the quarters, menstrual cycle, element, time of day, season, and even chakra. So we have even that, which if I was to say what chakra the women who run with the wolves, it feels like all of them. Just like, does this deck have all of them? I don't know if it has all of them. But either way, these are the backs. And oh yeah, you read the stories before you start working with the deck. Absolutely. I honored that, and that's what I have done. But this is what the deck looks like. It is such a stunning and incredible deck. And the reason why I got it, not only because Baba Yaga appears in Women Who Run with the Wolves and is an incredible figure, I really felt connected to chapter 3, which is the story of Vasilisa, where we first meet Baba Yaga in the book. And this deck just felt so honoring of that. Just absolutely, it just called to me. And that story has stuck with me. It continues to stick with me. It's everything that, I don't know, it's everything. And I don't know what else to say. I just feel like this deck absolutely is, it embodies the spirit of the wild woman. Absolutely. And like, look at that. The daughter of rebirth, which is the daughter of wands, is iggity eggity form, iggity eggity drop, iggity eggity warm, iggity eggity hop. I love that. Look at that high priestess. Like, these are cards you can meditate with, that you can tell stories with, that you can move with. You dance and you sway. Look at that. And you journey and you scream and you cry and you feel all the things and you do all of the things and it's your whole body. It's every part of you. It's down to your fingernails, to the hairs on your head, to the sweat that you drip, all of it. I love this deck. And yeah, let's read this one. This is the 8 of birth, which is the 8 of cups. Then she buried me alive. Can you believe it? That was that. I lay confused, deep in the ground. Well, then what? Time came and passed. I reimagined all my fear. From nowhere and everywhere, I noticed the full moon light. Her reach so magnificent that it touched me. Oh, I love that. Oops, wrong way. I love this one. This is the young mother of life, which is the pentacles. Potatoes in your pockets, stones in your hoo-ha, grease in your sockets, crazy in your stew. I just want to laugh. The lovers. Oh, could I just go through this whole deck? I love it. I don't want to talk about it too much because we have other decks, other books to talk about. I want to pull out one more deck that I recently thought that I could add to this group of decks to work with. The Wild Woman is the Ancestral Healing Tarot deck. It is new to me-ish, but it is, I already know it's a deck for life. I wanted to pull out a deck for this that feels aligned with my ancestry, with my lineage of stories, and this deck has been a very sweet and powerful companion in my own ancestral work. And I feel like to bring this element of my own spirituality, of my own, as I said, lineage, it just feels like the right edition, especially since I've been reading this book for a few months and I hadn't had this deck. This is like the perfect deck to bring in. I absolutely love this deck. Let me know if you would like me to do a video on this deck. It has the elements in here as well as spirit. It is a stunning and beautifully done deck. I just want to read this to you. It says, may this deck help you move through and reconcile with your greatest pains of displacement, search for belonging, nostalgia, and homesickness. May you get close enough to your fears to allow them to turn into the fiercest companions, the most patient friends, the wisest guides. May you realize you've always belonged to your ancestry's hearts. May this deck become a portal to ancestral healing as it has been for me. You are precious. And I keep that in the deck. I love this star card. I just find this deck to be really comforting, really healing, and like it said, companions, friends, guides, and it feels like the perfect personal addition, even if it's not, my personal deck, which I do bring my personal oracle deck into the mix, and it pairs so beautifully with this deck. So yeah, this is the Ancestral Healing Tarot, and this is my last edition. As I would love to hear from my ancestors and to do ancestral work while I work with this book and while in the group we tell stories and we share our personal stories. We share what it looks like to do our own reclamation in our personal lives and to heal the traumas of our past and the traumas of our family and the communities that we belong to. Yeah, so those are my pairings for the Women Who Run with the Wolves. Next is, I forgot to mention, yes, these are going to be mostly nonfiction. So this one clearly is nonfiction. The next one is nonfiction, and the last one is fiction. And the last one, I'm so excited to explore the pairings. That one I have no freaking idea. And the next one I don't have any freaking idea either, but very, very, very excited to share that one with you. Actually, what I also forgot to mention was that actually I have so many decks that correspond to this book because, like I said, the book is so much of who I am. It captures who I want to be, my aspirations, my goals, my deepest desires. And so I feel like I have so many decks that fall into this category. I just wanted to not go through, but share a couple of other ones. The Literary Witches, clearly here we have story, we have symbols, we have these incredible women. So we're honoring the writers, we're honoring the women from various cultures. We also have the Goddess Oracle. Sorry, that's a piece of the bag. We have the Goddess Oracle, where we see goddesses from various pantheons and cultures. And that's another one. We have the Dark Goddess Tarot, which I don't have with me in this moment. We have the Oracle of Initiation. This is another great example of that. This ritual, this story held in the body, and how we portray it through photo and through costume and through nature and the earth itself. So yeah, there's so many that I could, I have Tongues of the Mother, I have Dust to Onyx, I have so many. I mean, it may be just because Women Who Run with the Wolves is kind of what we're doing with the tarot, It's a story, it's a collection of symbols that we use that crosses cultures, transcends these boundaries that we draw between us. And yeah, I could go on and on and on. But anyway, yes, now let's move on to the next deck. The next book. So the next book is Agua Viva by Clarice Lispector. This is a very thin volume. This is, once again, another nonfiction book, and I don't know how to describe it, but what I will do is I will read to you the first couple of paragraphs in the book so that you can understand how I'm pairing this book and what it feels like for me. It's with such a profound happiness, such a hallelujah. Hallelujah, I shout. Hallelujah merging with the darkest human howl of the pain of separation, but a shout of diabolic joy. Because no one can hold me back now. I can still reason. I studied mathematics, which is the madness of reason. But now I want the plasma. I want to eat straight from the placenta. I'm a little scared of surrendering completely because the next instant is the unknown. The next instant, do I make it or does it make itself? We make it together with our breath and with the flare of the bullfighter in the ring. Let me tell you, I'm trying to seize the fourth dimension of this instant now, so fleeting that it's already gone because it's already become a new instant now that's also already gone. Everything has an instant in which it is. I want to grab hold of the is of the thing. These instants passing through the air I breathe, in fireworks they explode silently in space. I want to possess the atoms of time. And to capture the present, forbidden by its very nature, the present slips away, and the instant, too. I am this very second forever in the now. Only the act of love, the limpid star-like abstraction of feeling, captures the unknown moment, the instant hard as a crystal and vibrating in the air, and life is this intellable instant, larger than the event itself. During love, the impersonal jewel of the moment shines in the air, the strange glory of the body, matter made feeling in the trembling of instants. And the feeling is both immaterial and so objective that it seems to happen outside your body, sparkling on high. Joy is time's material and the essence of the instant. And in the instant is the is of the instant. I want to seize my is. And like a bird, I sing hallelujah into the air, and my song belongs to no one. But no passion suffered in pain, and love is not followed by a hallelujah. As you can see, this book is very heady, very emotional, passionate, strong. It feels like musings. It feels like an interrogation by the heart, or maybe of the heart. It feels like digging into life, digging into myself, digging into, it's like it's pure consciousness. Like it's human hope, human feeling, human thought, human patterns. I don't know. I'm only about a fourth of the way through it. It has 88 pages, which tickles my soul because I love the number 8, and 88 is like the most magical number that I can think of. But this one I have not paired with anything yet, and so I'm excited to share a couple of decks which I'm deciding between. Okay, not gonna lie, I took a quick break from filming and I don't know where I left off, but the first deck that came to my mind when I was thinking about the, which I edged in this blue because blue, oh my gosh, and my nails are blue. It's like one of my favorite things that I see in this deck are the blues. But yeah, so, and I don't know, has it fully dried? I don't know if it's gonna dry, but anyway, oops, wrong way. So I just feel like this deck is called the Lonely Dreamer. It just feels like that like introspective stream of consciousness, that like inner world and seeking. That's what it feels like. It feels like seeking. This deck doesn't feel like, as much as it feels like digging into oneself and digging into life itself, it doesn't feel like striving. Did I say the deck? That's how I feel about the book. And I feel similarly about the deck. It feels like you're dreaming, you're musing, you're in connection with the ultimate reality in a way, or at least you're trying to be. See, like the blues in this deck are just, they just are so captivating for me. So it's funny, I feel like this deck would go very well with, or maybe it would be the deck I would choose for Bluettes. I don't know if you've heard that book by Maggie Nelson. But yeah, it feels like it's trying to capture, the book is trying to capture the essence of reality, but can't necessarily, it's like it does, but then it's always sort of like left or just outside of it, or fails to capture it. And not in like a negative way, but just in the sense that it can't, you know? And it's like this frustration that you can never fully capture consciousness. You can never fully capture reality. You can never fully capture the human experience. And this card feels like an illustration of that. I don't know, this deck just feels also somber. Like the book is like, it's hopeful. It starts with a shout of hallelujah, but it also feels like there's a tinge of melancholy and what we call in my country saudade. It's like this longing that I feel. But then at the same time, I think because this deck is like, I mean, this book is so heady, I thought of like an oracle deck. I thought about like the heavenly bodies, astrology deck. I think because it's just like, it feels like it's in the stars, in the clouds. It feels like astral in that way of like not being able to capture human life. It feels outside of us. It's like what exists in the cosmos exists in us. And that's what this book feels like for me. And I feel like it would make me want to, with both of these decks, I would want to explore like, you know, creative prompts, writing prompts, meditations, and really just meditating with the energy of, you know, Aquarius, for example, originality, philanthropy. And I really like the write-ups in the book. I find the book to be very lovely to read as well. And it has that same poetic quality that Clarice Lispector has. And that same like investigation of who we are, what we're doing, how we express ourselves in the world, how we feel about life. And maybe, you know, it would be a great opportunity for meditations in that way. And then at the same time, once again, another deck comes to mind because the book is called Agua Viva, which I believe means living water. As far as, you know, my understanding, I know Clarice Lispector is Brazilian, and I know a little bit of Portuguese, a little bit of Spanish, and I know that living water, you know? So I thought the Flow Tarot, it's water, right? Like that makes sense. It flows. Like the book, like I said, it feels like digging, but it also feels so fluid. And maybe it feels like a river with rocks, and it sort of crashes around the rocks, and it flows into the deepest parts, and it sort of grazes the sides. I don't know. It feels like the ocean as well. It feels like this overwhelming thing that crushes you, but that makes you feel like you're back home where you are meant to be, where you come from, who you are. And yeah, I don't know. These decks feel all aligned in that way. And I love the keywords like persevere. You know, how would that relate to what I'm reading about in the book? Or maybe a quote that, looking through this and maybe finding the image that feels most aligned, either emotionally or visually. We're not talking about water, but it sure feels like water, especially because it feels like this stream of consciousness in the way that she writes the book. And between worlds, you know, I feel like the keywords also, the abundant source, the enduring union, adapt, locked in ice, scarcity, dive deeper, the gift, clarity, boundless curiosity. It's a very curious book. Spiraling renewal, endure. You know, like that feels so aligned. And I have one more deck, and that is, I'm not sure exactly how it's pronounced, but I pronounce it Poesis. Poesis? Poesis, I don't know. But I say Poesis, especially because of my background in expressive arts therapy. We use a similar word, but it has an I in there. But these are the backs. And if that's not related to what we just read, I don't know about this, but just because it has the word, like it reminds me of like poetry. It feels like it could be that. I'm not totally sure. Maybe this would be a great writing prompt deck as far as like really contemplating. If I had a digital copy, I would love to see if like I could like Control F a word from this deck, see if I could find the word noise and see where it comes up. That would be super cool. But really, I think about in the way that the book is written, this stream of consciousness, this exploration of self, exploration of time, exploration of experience. It's like a phenomenology. And maybe I could use these key words to consider how would I write maybe in a similar style and explore this for myself. I'm not sure. This feels maybe like the least, not the least, like it's most to least, but it doesn't, I'm the most unsure about it, I would say, of how I would connect it with the deck or how it would turn out in a reading. Let me know if you'd like to see any of these play out. I would love to make another video if that's something that you're interested in, but yeah, let me know if that's, yeah, if you'd be interested in that. Soften. Like I could just see it now, you know, trust. Exploring the concept of trust. What does that look like? You know what? I'm going to do something. I said, let me know if you want a video, but I'm going to try something. We're going to do the classic Don Michelle method. I mean, it is Don Michelle's tag, you know. So let's see. When the Knight of Pentacles and the Seven of Wands. Would I write about that? Would I meditate on that? Let me actually do this. Earth with the Page of Pentacles and the Chariot. I don't know. Blockage. All right, I'm going to have a play. Because I'm just going to open a random page and see. And darker. The instant is of total darkness. It goes on. Wait, I begin to glimpse a thing. A luminescent shape. A milky belly with a navel. Wait. Because I shall emerge from this darkness where I am afraid, darkness and ecstasy, I am the heart of the shadow. The problem is that the curtain over the window of my room is defective. It is stuck, and so it doesn't close. So the whole full moon enters and phosphoresces the room with silences. It's horrible. Now the shadows are retreating. I was born. Pause. Marvelous scandal. I was born. Oh my gosh. Like, what do I do with that? Like, what do I do with that? I think about darkness and birth and the womb. And I just remember seeing the womb card in here. Where is it? Okay, so I got it. Yeah, I'm going to stick womb here. So what does womb conjure up in me? It makes me think of my mother. It makes me think of my own body and my own relationship to having, you know, physically having a uterus, having a womb in that way. But it also makes me think about, I don't even remember what page that was. It makes me think about darkness and ecstasy. I am the heart of the shadow. I was born. Marvelous scandal. I was born. Ooh, I think a cool idea would be to bust out this and think about my birth. What was the you know, my sun sign is obviously the Scorpio, but my moon sign, as far as Western astrology goes, is Taurus. So if we think about the moon, since we were just talking about Taurus, and let me find the moon. There we go. Okay, so here's the moon. So if we talk about my own birth and me in the womb and me in the darkness and me now, me before, I think about we have trust, patience, sensuality. My emotional needs, nurture self and others. So maybe I could read these entries or meditate on them myself and write about them. Write about, I just love the marvelous scandal, and sort of maybe writing a little bit of a poem, a short essay on the marvelous scandal of my birth, of me being in the womb and me coming out, and the light of the moon and Taurus and all of those things. I think that'd be really fun. But yeah, that's just an idea. That's just a way that I would want to work with it, especially with Agua Viva. I feel like Clarice Lispector is just like, that's what the book feels like. But I'd be curious to see how it feels like with time once I finish it. So the last book that we are going to talk about, that I am most excited to talk about, is House of Leaves. This is the only fiction book here, but it is a very experimental piece of fiction. This is my first intentional read of a horror book. I would say intentional because I can't say that I've never read a horror book, but I'm pretty sure I haven't. So I will just tell you what this book is about based on the little description here. It says, the story, you can read this, pause and read this part if you want, but it says the story remains unchanged, focusing on a young family that moves into a small home on Ash Tree Lane where they discover something terribly wrong. Their house is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. And I have a very personal, spiritual reason for reading this book. I don't want to get too much into it, but pretty much, for me, it's about an exploration of the dark, of illusion, delusion, memory, more particularly dreams and nightmares, and reality, and how we tell the stories of all those things and how they live inside us again and again and again and again, shaping us, shaping the world inside and outside and everything in between. So it's so funny because the way that I would have described this book, having only read a few chapters so far, is ambitious. Because of the way that it's set up, the story that it's telling, it is extremely ambitious. And I looked at the back, and it's like, it says one of the most ambitious, complicated, and eagerly anticipated literary debuts of the year. House of Leaves is like no other novel you've ever read. If you notice, something very interesting about it is that every mention of this, every word house is blue, even on the cover, and even back here when we're looking at the publisher. Like, it's dedication, and you want to see the experimental nature of this book. It is not all text. Some of them are sideways. They're in other languages. There are footnotes that go on for pages. This book is very ambitious, very interesting. There are crossouts, pages, like empty pages. It's pretty cool. Like I said, I haven't gotten that far into it. It's an incredible piece of work, and I'm very excited to dig into it. It's very hard to find a book, a deck that, corresponds to this. And I feel like the reasons that I would want a deck is to explore the house of my own. I'm not sure the meaning of this word of leaves. So I'm going to allow that to unfold. And I don't want to pick like any nature-y deck because it's a house of leaves. But I do, one of the things that it says on the back as well, that it's a semiotician or semiotician for semiotics, which is the studies of sign and symbols, I believe. And also in the beginning and like the intro to the book, this character says something about one of the characters being a graphomaniac, so which is like the urge to write, or like the intense urge to write. And also it says on the back, I don't want to keep turning the book back and forth, but it says funny, moving, sexy, beautifully told, and an elaborate engagement with the shape and meaning of narrative. So as you can see, I'm big into writing. I'm a poet. The books that I've chosen thus far are very much about story and about narrative itself as a cultural thing, as a intensely personal, spiritual, human thing. And this book, like I said, I have very personal reasons for wanting to read it. If you open the first page, well, that's the contents, in case you were curious. But what I loved, when I opened the book and seeing this, it's a little menacing, a little scary. So when we're thinking about scary, one of the decks that I thought I'd pull out is the Tarot del Toro, because Guillermo del Toro is a filmmaker, and this book is about a filmmaker and his family, and or a photographer, I think. And so, well, there he is right there. Oh, wrong way once again. One day I'll get it. But yeah, so I thought this book might be interesting to get into. For this deck would be interesting to use, especially also because it's a pip deck. So I feel like there's a simplicity, there's an emptiness about it, rather than every image being illustrated and thick with color and meaning. There's some that have that, and those images are scary or disturbing. And then there's these pared down images that don't have much going on. And so in that way, they feel like they can tell a story of their own through your imagination. And because this deck is based on a filmmaker, there is inherently an aspect of storytelling, of imagination, of what is real and what is not real, what we tell, like what makes something fiction and what makes something nonfiction, what makes it fact. And that's a very tricky line, and I find that to be really interesting, even for myself, as I contemplate my dreams. And I've had, very vivid dreams over the past year, and it's been very interesting to think about the difference between memory and, like, not the difference between, but what makes something a memory. Are my dreams memories? Did they happen to me? Are they real? Are they not real? And, I think about also with the House of Leaves, all of the Wands cards in this deck have leaves on them. I believe they all do. But I don't know. I just find this deck to be an interesting match to explore whatever comes up in the book for myself. Explore the concept of home. Explore a house, the spaces that we live in, the world that we traverse, the size of it, the depth of it, the feeling, the temperature, what's on the walls, what's on the floor, what do we touch, what do we breeze past, what do we not notice, what do we feel about those things. But I also think that I kind of want to ground myself. So before I get into another spooky deck, I want to have something that feels grounding. And so for that, I just figured I would pull out my, Rider-Waite-Smith Centennial and work with that as a means of grounding myself in the midst of maybe fear and confusion and maybe disgust, maybe apprehension, worry, or just maybe even a sense of paralysis, of numbness, and have this deck be a sort of way to come back into my body if I feel like I've left, come back to this level of reality. Our fiction books, because we go to these places and they affect us on spiritual, emotional levels, are they real? I don't know. What about the layers of this deck? What makes the story of tarot, the images, what makes them stories? They're pictures, and they have their signs and symbols, and we make meaning of those symbols, and they become real for us. And what is real to you may not be real to someone else. This doesn't seem to be grounding me at all. Oh, goodness. But yeah, I just thought this would be a good deck to bust out. You know, in the midst of a horror story, you want something familiar, something that feels maybe like home. We'll see. But two other decks that I want to share are the Wild Unknown. I only have this pocket edition. I like it because of the lines, and it definitely feels, it's not like spooky in a scary way, but it feels very eerie. It feels dark. It feels like, I don't know. How do I explain that? It feels barren. And so then we also have, this is the Hayworth Tarot, which I recently got. And so these two decks feel like they're spooky in the way that the story feels thus far. It feels sort of dark and barren, and it feels uncomfortable. It feels just like something's wrong, like something's lurking around the corner, like, but also like that I may be familiar with this scary story. Like maybe I've seen this before somewhere. Like there's something familiar about what's lying in the dark, what I'm afraid of. Maybe I know something about it. Maybe it knows something about me. And it punctures me. And what spills out? What does it whisper? What does it show me? What images? What do I see? Look at that. Yeah, these got to be the two, huh? Maybe Tarot del Toro is not the one. I think it's these. So, yeah. These two might just go together really well, too. Not just separately. Maybe I'll get no, I was going to say maybe I'll get a full-size copy of The Wild Unknown, but maybe not. We don't need to have 4 versions of every deck we like. Or do we? Or do we? Or do we? Do we? Yeah, I feel like this is the one. I actually don't have much else to say because I feel like everything that I've been saying is really affecting me. I feel affected by the depth of emotions in each of these books, and I feel like I just want to take a break. I've actually had to take, if this tells you anything about the intensity of these books and making this video, which I did not expect, I've had to take at least 3 breaks throughout filming this, and because these books are quite intense, and the stories they tell, they're very impacting. And when I think about impacting as a verb, there's a density, there's contact that two things make, and there's a heaviness and a pushing. And that's kind of how all of these books quite feel to me. Like they're piercing. They are piercing, almost like when I think about like a shot, like a needle. They get deep, and they put something inside of you. Is this getting really creepy? Sorry. That's just how I feel about each of these books. Women Who Run with the Wolves, it's like a medicine. Agua Viva also feels very similar, and this feels like maybe poison, maybe medicine, maybe we don't know the difference. Maybe it's about the dosage. A lot of things are like that. It's about how much you take in as opposed to what you take in. And yeah, I find that to be really interesting. So yeah, this is my choice for House of Leaves. I think these two, and then obviously the Rider-Waite Smith Centennial for when I need a grounding moment and I don't want to be in this barren wasteland of darkness and confusion and illusion and fear. But these ones just feel so perfect, so perfect for the House of Leaves. Thank you so much for joining me as I went on this journey today with these three incredible books. I'm very excited to get into this work, to play with these decks, and just really explore story and specifically the stories that these writers are weaving and the stories that I personally weave in my own life, and how these decks can aid me in that process. I hope that you enjoyed your time here. I hope you come back soon and let me know if there's any one of these decks that you want to hear more about, any one of these books that you want to hear more about, and I will gladly make a video. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, by the way, and subscribe to hear more about my journey in tarot and divination and spirituality and play and writing and creativity and all the fun things that I love to do and talk about. Yeah, if you enjoyed your time in this video specifically, I think you'll definitely enjoy what I'm about and what I'm planning to do on this channel through time. So it's been lovely, and I'll see you again soon.